Hi everyone, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. What is life? Nice to see you again for the quantitative research course. I am Arnie Suhestiningsih and my friend Jawari Muslim will share and discuss with you about experimental research. As we know, experimental research is the most familiar type of research design for individuals in the physical sciences and a host of other fields. In other side, we can state that experimental research is a scientific approach to research where one or more independent variables are manipulated and applied to one or more dependent variable to measure their effect on the latter. Now we go to the types of experimental research design. The types of experimental research design are determined by the way the researcher assigns subject to different conditions and groups. There are three types of experimental research. The first, pre-experimental, the second, quasi-experimental, and the third, true experimental. Now let's discuss about pre-experimental. Pre-experimental, a group or various dependent groups are observed for the effect of the application of an independent variable. Pre-experimental research design divided into three types. The three types of pre-experimental research, namely, the first, one-shot case study research design. In this case, one dependent group variable is considered. The second one group pre-test post-test research design, and the third, about static group comparison. For one group pre-test post-test research design, this research combines both post-test and pre-test study by carrying one test and a single group. The third type of pre-experimental research is static group comparison. On this research design, two or more groups are placed under observation. Okay, now we continue our discussion to the second type of experimental research. The second type of experimental research is quasi-experimental research design. In this research, the participants are not randomly assigned. Quasi-experimental research is also very common in educational research. Discuss about quasi-experimental research. Quasi-experimental research design divided into three parts. The first, what we call non-equivalent control. The second, time series. And the third, multiple time series. Let's start again to know more about non-equivalent control group. A non-equivalent control group is a quasi-experimental research design in which a dependent variable is measured in one group of participants before pre-test and after post-test. A treatment and that time independent variable is also measured at pre-test and post-test in another non-equivalent. Then what about the second part of quasi-experimental research? Time series. We know time series. Yeah, the second part of quasi-experimental research, what we call time series. As we know that time series is a sequence of numerical data points in successive order, usually occurring in uniform intervals. In other words, we can say a time series is simply a sequence of numbers collected at regular interval over a period of time. Let's continue for the last type of quasi-experimental design, what we call multiple time series. What is a multiple time series design? Okay, a multiple time series design is a type of quasi-experimental design where a series of periodic measurement is taken from two groups of the test unity. That is an experimental group and a control. Well, the two types of experimental research we have been discussed. Now my friend Jawari Muslim will share and discuss with you for the third type of experimental research, namely true experimental research.
Okay, the third types of experimental research design is true experimental research designs. This type of research designs relies on statistical analysis to approve or disprove a hypothesis. It is the most accurate type of experimental design and may be carried out with or without a pretest on at least two randomly assigned dependent subjects. The classification of true experimental designs include the post-test only control group design, the pretest post-test control group design, and Solomon fall group design. And now we are talking about the characteristics of experimental research. In this case, there are three characteristics of experimental research. The first is variables. Experimental research contains dependent, independent, and extraneous variables. The dependent variables are the variables being treated or manipulated and are sometimes called the subjects of the research, while the independent variables are the experimental treatment being exerted on the dependent variables. On the other hand, extraneous variables are other factors affecting the experiment that may also contribute to the change. The next characteristic is setting. The settings is where the experiment is carried out. Many experiments are carried out in the laboratory where control can be exerted on extraneous variables, thereby eliminating them. Other experiments are carried out in a less controllable setting. The choice of setting used in research depends on the nature of the experiment being carried out. Multivariable. Experimental research might also include multiple independent variables such as times, skills, test scores, and etc. And the last part being discussed in these materials is the data collection methods in experimental research. Data collection methods in experimental research are the different ways in which data can be collected for experimental research. They are used in different cases depending on the type of research being carried out. And the first type of data collection method in experimental research is observational study. This type of study is carried out over a long period. It measures and observes the variables of interest without changing existing conditions. The second one is simulations. This procedure uses a mathematical, physical, or computer models to replicate a real-life process or situation. It is frequently used when the actual situation is too expensive, dangerous, or impractical to replicate in real life. And the last one is surveys. A survey is a tool used to gather relevant data about the characteristics of population and is one of the most common data collection tools. A survey consists of a group of questions prepared by researchers to be answered by the research subject. Okay, finally, thanks for watching our presentations, and I hope it can give you some more important material about experimental research designs. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.